Okay, today's financial literacy lecture is called The Time Value of Money, and it's a personal guide. Okay, so there won't be any homework this weekend. I just want you to listen to me, watch this video, and make this chart that I'm about to fill out. You're going to want to turn your paper sideways. Okay, and I did have a hard time fitting it all on this little whiteboard, but write small enough left to right, and I want to go through this. This is the most important lecture I will give you all year. So if you can follow these principles, you will retire wealthy. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to write down this row and this column, and pause the video, do that, and then when you get all that written down, I'll talk through it. Okay, assume you've gotten all this written down. Just in case you can't read it that well, this says investment, annual contribution, the total dollars that you will have saved up if you start saving at 25. The total dollars you'll have saved up if you start saving at 30. This is at 35 and at 40. This analysis assumes, right, write this somewhere, but I'm about to erase this, assumes a 10% annual stock market return. All right, your return on investment, 10%. Historically, that's what the stock market does. Some years it goes way down. Some years it goes way up. Okay, we recently had a year where it went up 37%. Okay, but some years it goes down. 2 out of every 3 years it typically goes up. But over a long period of time, you can count on a 10% stock market return. Okay, hopefully you can fit that in somewhere on your paper. I'm going to go ahead and erase this and we'll fill out the chart. Okay, the Roth IRA is an investment that the government allows that grows tax-free. Okay, so you contribute to the investment, it grows tax-free, but you can't get it out until you're 59 and a half. We'll talk about that in future chapters. Let's assume you can do an annual contribution of $5,500. So every year you're going to put $5,500 in that Roth IRA. The government now allows you to do $6,000, but when I first started this lecture, this was the contribution limit. So you could even do better than this. All right. Now the goal is to retire at 60 years old. If you start at 25 years old and you put $5,500 a year in a Roth IRA and the stock market returns 10% a year like it always has, you will have, drum roll please, $1.6 million. That's all it takes. $5,500 a year, start at 25. By the time you are 60, you will have 1.6 million. Let's say you wait until 30 to start. You will have $1 million. Waiting 5 years to start in the beginning of your life, or beginning of your adult life, costs you $600,000. Let's say you wait until 35 to start. All right, you're just not that serious about saving. You finally got serious at 35. You're going to have $600,000. You lost $1 million by waiting those 10 years. And then let's say you wait to start till 40. This is most people. Most middle class and even upper middle class people wait until they're 40 to start saving for retirement. It's a bad idea. You'll have $350,000. That's just contributing $5,500 a year. All right. Let's say you have a spouse that also works. So you could double this contribution. You and your spouse both contribute $5,500 a year. Well, you can just double all these numbers. You'll have 3.2 million. If you both start at 25, if you both start at 30, you'll have 2 million. If you both start at 35, you'll have 1.2 million. And if you both start at 40, you'll have 700,000 by the time you're 60 years old. Okay, so let's say you're part of a company that provides a 401k retirement plan, all right? What happens is you contribute money and the company matches some of that money. So I'm going to make some assumptions, but I'm going to make an assumption that you can contribute $5,000 to this. All right? And that includes and will include $2,500 from the company that you work for. Okay, so you do $5,000, they match 50% of that and give you $2,500. All right? So let's say you don't do the Roth IRA, you just do the 401k. If you do that at 60 years old, you will have $1.4 million. All right, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. The $5,000, half of that comes from the company. So you contribute $2,500 and the company contributes $2,500. If you wait until you're 30, you'll have $820,000. All right. If you start at 35, you will have $490,000. And then if you don't start until 40, you'll have $290,000 by the time you're 60. Okay, let's say that your spouse also has a 401k. You both work at companies that provide that. It's pretty common. And you both end up contributing $10,000. And then half of that, $5,000, is from the company that you work for. Okay, then you can double all these numbers. You would have 2.8 million, 1.6 million. I'm just going to round down. It would actually be 1.64 million. 980,000, and then that'd be 580,000. Okay, so what total would you have at 60 if you were to do both of these things? All right. You were able to contribute $5,500 to a Roth IRA, and then you also were able to contribute $5,000 to a 401k, and half of that came from your company. So you only had to do $2,500 of that. All right. Well, it would be add 1.6 million plus 1.4 million. You would have 3 million. That's just you by yourself, okay? That's this, not including your spouse. Okay? 1 million plus 820,000 will round 1.8 million if you don't start until you're 30. Okay, again, I'm adding these two columns, 600,000 plus 490,000, you'd have 1.1 million. And then 350 plus 290. This is if you don't have a spouse or your spouse doesn't contribute anything. Okay, so, and then that'd be 640,000 if you wait until you're 40 to start. Okay, let's say you don't start, let's say that you have a spouse and the spouse contributes. So this time we're adding the 3.2 million and the 2.8 million. How much money will you have? Well, you're going to have 6 million. If you start at 25. If you wait until you're 30, you'll have 3.6 million. Waiting 5 years costs you $2.4 million. At 60. All right, this would be 2.2 million. And this would be 1.3 million rounding. If you wait that 20 years, you lost $4.7 million. Okay, so let's say you have all that and then you want to put it in an investment, and you put it in a conservative investment. Let's say 50% stocks, 50% bonds. And you get a 6% return because you'll want a more conservative investment when you're older. Your annual income would be, if you have 3 million, your spouse didn't contribute, your annual income would be $180,000 a year. That's pretty good. If you wait until you're 30, your annual income would be $108,000 a year. Still not bad, but you lost $72,000 a year by waiting those 5 years. Okay, your annual income would be $66,000 if you wait until you're 35, and your annual income would then be $33,000. Excuse me, can't read my own writing. $38,000 if you wait until you're 40. Look at the difference. Look at how you'll be, if you wait until you're 40, look at how you'll be able to live at 60 if you choose to retire then, versus if you start at 25, 15 years earlier. What's your annual income? All right, and then let's say your spouse saved all those years with you. Just double all these numbers. 360,000, 216,000, 132,000, and then 78,000. Most of the time, it's hard to get both spouses to be able to work all these years. If you have kids, maybe one spouse takes off for a few years, but maybe not, all right? It just depends on your life situation. But you can see the difference between starting at 25 and then just waiting 5 years. The difference is huge, but if you wait until you're 40, you really are behind in your retirement savings. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and pause the video if you need to keep writing this out, and then I'm going to give you some guidelines on how to accomplish this goal. How can you come up with $5,500 a year to save, or another, or $2,500 to put into your 401k? All right, so just pause the video. Okay, so if you want to turn your paper over, how to accomplish. All right, how are you going to accomplish this retirement plan? All right, number one, if you can do this, you're never going to have any money problems. You have to live on less than you make. You know, one way to do that is you could use budgeting software. We'll talk about that later in the year, hopefully. But live on less than you make. Number two, some of the budgeting software like Mint is a famous one. You Need a Budget is a famous one. All right, we'll go through the pros and cons of all of those some other time in a different personal guide. You have to make your investments a high priority. One way to do that is to automate. Have it automatically taken out of your paycheck. You'll never see it, okay? You can do that with your Roth IRA, with an investment company. You can do that with your 401k. All right, it'll definitely happen with the 401k. You have to establish an emergency fund. Okay, so an emergency fund will be 3 to 6 months of expenses. All right, if you need to replace your water heater, or you have a crisis with your automobile and have to spend a lot of money changing out the transmission, need new tires, you have a lightning strike at your house and it messes up some of your appliances, whatever, you need a new refrigerator. If you have an emergency fund, you can just go pay that with cash, and it won't mess up your savings, okay? So you got to have that emergency fund. Never, ever, ever pay credit card interest. Using credit cards, that's a great way to pay your bills, but you got to pay it off at the end of the month. If you can't pay off at the end of the month, then you can't afford it. Okay, I have violated this one, but I did it because I could pay with cash. But it wasn't the best decision, but it didn't affect my retirement savings. So, you know, but I think it's good advice. Never buy a new car. All right, and that's because you need to let someone else pay the depreciation. So if you want something pretty new, you can get a 1 or a 2 or 3-year-old car, and it's going to be such a much better deal. If you get into this pattern, now I've only done this once, but if you get into this pattern of buying a new car every 3 or 4 years, it's just going to kill you. All right? Try not to get into that habit. Keep your house payment. This is the last one. To 25% of your take-home pay. If you can do that, then it'll be easy to make to save for your retirement, to fill up those Roth IRA and 401k accounts. All right, you just need to move up in house slowly. Don't get impatient. You'll get there. It's really all about patience, all of this. So that ends today's lecture. You'll need to write all this down, put it in the personal guide section of your notebook, and have a good weekend. And I will I'll make a video and assign section 6.6. I'll get you that video so that you can work on that on Monday. So I will talk to you next video.